people are starting to plan their trip, and weather is such an important part of your trip because you want to know what you...
We are live.
Hey guys, how are you doing today? Thank you very much for joining us for another one of our live sessions where we're going to be answering all your questions about traveling in New Zealand. So if you're joining us live for the first time, the live chat is a safe zone. You can just ask whatever you want. There's no stupid questions. And if you've already been here before, well, you know the drill. Ask us your questions and let's plan your trip to New Zealand together.
But why would you ask us any questions? Well, this is Robin and I'm Laura, and we are the team behind backpackerguide.nz. So basically, we are the guys that write that massive website for New Zealand with all the travel advice about activities to do around New Zealand, as well as the nitty-gritty travel tips about organizing your trip. And every single Sunday at 8 a.m. New Zealand time, we do this live Q&A session for you guys to come onto the live chat and ask your New Zealand travel questions. But if you want to know what time that is around the world at every single Sunday, well, actually, it's on a Saturday in the US at 4 p.m. EST or 12 p.m. PST. It's also on a Saturday evening in Europe. In the UK, it is it 9 p.m.?
Oh, sorry.
Or 10 p.m. Or in India, it is bright and early on a Sunday morning at 1:30 a.m. So, if you can't make any of our live Q&A sessions, then you can send us your questions in the comments section of any of our YouTube videos, and we'll make sure to add them to a pool of questions, which we will also go through during this live Q&A session. We are also taking questions on Facebook. If you send us a private message on Facebook, just search backpackerguide.nz, or send us a private message on Instagram, search @backpackerguide.nz, or on Twitter, if ever Robin checks it, is...
I never do. I forgot this week again. Stop messaging us on Twitter.
Try to avoid messaging us on Twitter, but if that's your only means of communication, then it's @BPKGuide. All right.
I'm checking it.
So yeah, shall we get started with some questions that we already received throughout the week?
Of course. Just take a minute to say good morning to Mohammed. How are you doing today, Mohammed? Where are you watching from? Is it warm where you are? Because it's winter in New Zealand. It's pretty cold here.
It is.
All right. Speaking of cold, let's start with the first question of the day. So you guys sent that to us on Facebook, and so that's from Carol K. So Carol K on Facebook asks, "Hello, Laura. Thank you so much for all your videos, especially the female solo travel one. It is really inspiring." Look at that, you're inspiring. Can you tell me about the weather in July, please? Will it be cold? It will. All right. So what about we bring up our trusty map and we start talking about the weather in New July.
Yeah, shall I just get started with an introduction? So,
go for it.
just so you guys know, July is right in the middle of winter in New Zealand, and yeah, so it is kind of the coldest time of the year to be traveling around New Zealand. But the plus side of that is that it's also the quietest time to be traveling around in New Zealand. There's far less tourists, so it often feels like you have the whole place to yourself. And on top of that, it's in the middle of the winter season where there's a lot of snow spots around New Zealand, so you could go skiing or snowboarding. That's definitely on the cards. But the thing to note is that the temperature and the precipitation around New Zealand is usually quite different depending on whereabouts in the country you are. So we're going to bring out our map and go through some precipitation around New Zealand as well as some average temperatures. And Robin's going to...
Here you go. While Laura is getting ready with the map, I'm going to give you a few tips for traveling New Zealand in July before we get started. So first up, you've got to know that it's the low season in New Zealand, as Laura mentioned, so there's going to be less people and it's going to be a little bit cheaper, but that comes with a few things that you need to be aware of. If you're planning on driving around New Zealand in July, the weather can actually quite affect your driving quite a lot, and some roads may be closed due to excess snow. So you may want to check on the New Zealand Transport Agency, which is NZTA, and you may want to check on their website for all the roads updates in New Zealand. If you plan on going to any of the ski field or the mountainous areas, you will need to get yourself some snow chain. And also, if you do know how to drive in this kind of weather, that'll be a little bit better for you guys. For some of the great walk, Most of them are accessible all year long, but there are also a few of them which should not be attempted in winter, especially without the proper gear. So I'm thinking about, around the Tongariro mountain, for example, which gets really cold. You need to have very good equipment, and sometimes there's even just go with a guide. It's going to be easier. So that's just a couple of tips right here for you guys. And obviously, if you are planning on doing some activities which are extremely weather related, like some helicopter tours, for example, make sure to actually plan a couple of different locations where you're going to be doing. So let's say you want to do a glacier walk. You may plan Franz Josef and Fox Glacier. So if it's cancelled in Franz Josef on the day you're here, you always have a chance to do it in Fox Glacier. So keep that in mind. It's July in New Zealand, so there's a bit more unexpected. All right, now let's start talking about the weather itself. Enough of an introduction. We're going to be starting with the temperature, and I'm going to go through a lot of different regions around New Zealand and give you the average temperature in July. Then we're going to be talking about the rainfall, so you know where you're at. All right, let's get started with northern New Zealand, which include Northland, Auckland, and Tauranga. The average temperature is 11 degrees Celsius, which is 52 degrees Fahrenheit. Then central North Island, that's Hamilton, Taupo, and Rotorua. The average temperature is 7 degrees Celsius, which is 47 degrees Fahrenheit. Then the southwest North Island, which is New Plymouth, Palmerston North, and Wellington. So this whole area right here, the average temperature is 9 degrees Celsius, which is 49 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, if we're talking about the eastern North Island, so that's Gisborne, Napier, and all the Wairarapa, still a typo on this one, every single one of the months. That's 9 degrees Celsius, 49 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm talking about a typo right now because I'm reading from our article, which is a weather in July, which we're going to be linking for you guys in the description below, so you can dive much more in depth into that subject. And I promise we will go and correct this typo for you. All right, let's move on to the South Island right here. Northern South Island, that's Blenheim and Nelson. That is 7 degrees Celsius, 47 Fahrenheit. Then we're having the eastern South Island, that is Kaikoura, Christchurch, and Timaru. So all that big stripe right here. The average temperature is about 7 degrees Celsius, 47 degrees Fahrenheit. Then the western South Island, that's everything from Westport, Hokitika, and even Milford Sound all the way down the bottom. That's between 5 and 7 degrees Celsius, which is 41 to 47 degrees Fahrenheit. Inland South Islands, so that's Lake Tekapo, Queenstown, and Alexandra. That is 1 to 3 degrees Celsius. So that's when it starts getting really cold, so 34 to 37 Fahrenheit. And southern New Zealand, that's Dunedin, and Invercargill, that's 7 degrees Celsius, 47 Fahrenheit. So that's the average temperature that you can expect around New Zealand in July. Now, what about rainfall? Because New Zealand, well, is known to have quite a lot of rain. So let's have a look at the rain in July. We're going to go through the same region, North Island. So northern New Zealand, Northland, Auckland, and Tauranga, that's about 150 millimeters of rain. Central North Island, which is Hamilton, Taupo, and Rotorua, it's 110 millimeters of rain. Southwest North Island, which is New Plymouth, Palmerston North, and even Wellington, that's 140 milliliters of rain. Eastern North Island, which is Gisborne, Napier, and Wairarapa, has about 90 millimeters of rain. Then we're having the northern South Island, which is Blenheim and Nelson. That's 90 millimeters of rain. Then we have having the eastern South Island, Kaikoura, Timaru, and Christchurch, which is 80 millimeters of rain. Now brace yourself for the wild west coast of New Zealand. So around this area where you have Westport, Hokitika, and Milford Sound, there is always the highest rainfall in the country. So this one is between 250 and 450 millimeters of rain. So that's the every month of the year is the highest amount of rain, but it's also one of the most beautiful places in the country. Yeah. So yeah, inland South Island, that's Lake Tekapo and Queenstown and Alexandra. It's only 20 to 50 millimeters of rain. That's because there is a lot of snow as well, and that's not as different. And southern New Zealand, Dunedin and Invercargill, you have 70 millimeters of rain. So here you go. That's basically what kind of weather you can expect in July. Now, in July, the best places to visit in New Zealand are Queenstown, because, well, it's like where you can do all the ski fields and all those kind of things. Northland right here, because this is where you're going to get most of the good weather and awesome weather. Now, despite the high amount of rain, we also have Franz Josef, if you're on the point on the map, yeah. Just because the glaciers are unmissable, and especially in this kind of months, you know, there's usually a bit more snow and everything, so it makes everything looks like just a blanket of snow. It's quite fantastic.
And it's also doesn't have as many tourists there because Franz Josef is a really small town. So in summer, it does feel really busy, but in winter, it feels so much more relaxed, so much more quiet. So it's a good time to go. Yeah.
We also love Tekapo, just because there is some awesome hot springs that are completely covered under the snow. It's just like Instagram perfect kind of places to go to. Yeah. And also we also love Rotorua and Topo because there is all the geothermal activity, all the warm weather. You know, all the warm weather comes from the ground, which is quite cool. So we do really like it. All right. And finally, a couple of things to pack if you're traveling in New Zealand in July.
Yeah. Okay. So like I mentioned, it is winter. So you will need to pack some warm clothing, like a beanie or a scarf is a good idea. And because, as you heard from all the precipitation that may occur during this time, it's always a good idea to have a rain jacket. That's actually a really good waterproof rain jacket. Some warm mid layers. So that's kind of like, you know, your hoodies or your fleeces, something that you can take on and off. It's always good to have an extra mid layer. Some thermal underlayers. So this could be like your sort of tight merino wool layers are really popular in New Zealand. And if you can't get them back home, you can certainly get them when you arrive in New Zealand. Woolen socks. That's usually a lot more effective than cotton socks. And if cotton socks get wet, then they're really uncomfortable to wear. Whereas wool is just generally a better material for colder months. Waterproof hiking shoes, again, if it starts raining, wet feet is usually quite a misery, or at least I think so. So having some waterproof shoes is always good. And swimwear, because believe it or not, you still will want to get in the water in the middle of winter in New Zealand, but more preferably for the hot pools that are all around and not really for swimming in the sea.
All right, so thank you very much for watching this video. If you guys have any questions, make sure to put them in the comment below so we can answer them during our next live session. And if you do want to dive deeper into the New Zealand weather in July, make sure to check the link in the description below, which sends you to an article with much more information. All right, let's go back to the live chat. All right, a lot of activity, guys. It looks like you are awake today. I like it. So Rahul DP says, hi guys, how's Rotorua as a city for international students? We actually have a video exactly about that. So if you go on our channel and on the search bar of the channel, you type Rotorua, you're going to be able to find this one. We talk about all the student jobs and why Rotorua is an awesome city. But in short, it's a really cool city, so you should definitely go there. Mohammed says, I'm still in Namibia. I would like to ask about primary school system in New Zealand, public versus private, and is there any obligation for religion teaching? Mohammed, we do not have kids. We have no idea about the school system here, so you will have to do a bit more research on your own. I'm sorry. We only kind of focus on traveling in New Zealand. So anything to do about traveling and, you know, being a tourist in New Zealand, we're able to help. But anything with you know, school system and immigration, any of that, we are not experts at all. Right, Rahul says, what kind of part-time job can I expect in Rotorua? Thanks in advance. Well, Rahul, as I mentioned, we have a whole video about that. So we cover every type of job you can get. So make sure to type Rotorua in the search bar of our channel. So you see the big image on our channel that says New Zealand's biggest gap here. Just underneath, there is the playlist and then all the videos and all those kind of little tab. And there is a search icon. If you click on that and you type Rotorua, you'll find so many tips for that. G Van Diep says in September, please.
I think that's for the weather. It says again weather in late September.
Oh, cool. We'll do that in a little while. Just give us a minute. Says a lot of other people. Reggie Matthews say hi backpackers. Hey Reggie, I have your questions. We're gonna go through them literally next. So stick around. We are gonna answer your question. TR Charma say hi. Good morning, hey. Charma. Where are you watching from? Michael Mariano says aloha with a million emojis. Yay!
Shake a hand.
Yeah, I like the more emojis, the better.
Yeah.
Javan Deep says, want to travel in a camper van? Can you suggest some cheap and good camper van sites to pre-book? Well, actually, if you go on our site, it's backpackerguide.nz. I'll show you something which is pretty cool. Just because we actually did try quite a lot. So you go on backpackerguide.nz and it looks like that, right? And here you click on travel tips right here, and then transportation. And then here you put rental camper van. So it's the one on the list, and you have all our tips. And there is like for every cities where you want to start. So if you want to start in Auckland, for example, you go on the Auckland article and it says the best camper van rental company in Auckland.
And we actually have articles on there saying the best cheap camper van rentals as well, or budget camper vans. So have
you
a
can,
look at those.
you can do like your different budget. You can do your different city of departure, and you can choose all of them. And that's like our take on each of them, and we list them and we tell you what are the inclusions and all those kind of things. And then there is a link and you can book it directly with them. We're not taking any bookings, but it's all our tips. So if you want to know which one the best company, so again, go on the website, it's backpackerguide.nz, and then you have all of that right here. That's going to be really helpful to you. Tia Shama says, thanks for the valuable information. You're very welcome.
Cool.
You want to know the scope and job opportunity in supply chain management in Christchurch, New Zealand. Again, Tia Chama, there is a very specific question right here. We are a travel channel, so we are here to tell you all about being a tourist in New Zealand, traveling and enjoying New Zealand. We have no idea about supply chain management in Christchurch. I'm sorry, I don't even know what that is. So yeah, I don't know what that is. Michael Magno say, you guys are always welcome here in Hawaii to warm up. Yes,
we would love that.
Please, take us now.
Yeah.
It is so cold right now. All right, and Jivandip is asking for weather in September. So Jivandip, stick around. We're just going to answer Reggie's question first, and then after we're going to do the weather in September for you. All right, guys, let's go through Reggie's question. So Reggie was asking on YouTube, Reggie Matthews says, traveling from the US to Queenstown with a 5 and a 10 years old. How many days do you need to plan a trip to Queenstown, and plus to avoid the jet lag? We land in Auckland for 2 days only, especially to keep the kids engaged and see some exciting spots. All right, so traveling with kids is always kind of hard, especially when you want to manage jet lag as well, because I'm suspecting Reggie is coming from the US, and there you're going to have a little bit more you're going to have a little bit more jet lag because you fly quite far away. So to travel, to get rid of the jet lag, first up, I think you did the right thing right here, which is to kind of get yourself a couple of days in Auckland before you head to Queenstown. Taking the time to actually kind of recover between flight is very, very, very handy. In fact, if you are flying from anywhere else, let's say you're flying from Europe and you have a stopover, let's say in Dubai or in Hong Kong or in Singapore, it may pay off to actually take 1 or 2 days to explore Singapore, Dubai, and Hong Kong. They're wonderful places. And that will definitely help you to break down the jet lag and be able to arrive in New Zealand and hit the ground running. You arrive there, you have no jet lag, you're ready to go, and that's going to be really, really handy. But to address the jet lag, we actually do have a bunch of tips on backpackerguide.nz, with like, for example, 10 ways to kind of avoid the jet lag. And we go through about like 5 of them, the 5 which are the most effective, just so we get that out of the way. And then after we can talk about Queenstown. So,
all right.
Jet lag. First up, what's the first tips?
Okay, first thing to do is to actually be pretty active once you arrive in New Zealand. If you're lying about, trying to get a lot of rest and stuff, then usually that sort of makes you more tired and puts you more into the sleep pattern of what you're used to back home during the normal waking hours of the time zone here in New Zealand. So just try to be awake between, say, 8 and 9 p.m. Make sure that in those hours you are awake, and if you are struggling, make sure that you're actually doing something active. So if you're staying in Auckland, go out there and explore the city, have a walk around. There's definitely plenty of places to go for a walk in Auckland. You could be going to Mount Eden. You could be going around the Auckland Domain, which is a huge park there, going to the Auckland Museum, for instance. So there's definitely a lot of things around to keep you stimulated, and that's a really important thing to do when you're trying to avoid jet lag.
All right, so the next tip to try to avoid jet lag is to actually sleep during the night flight and try to stay awake during the day flight. So it's really important to kind of try to adjust your body as you're moving through the planet, basically. And so if you can actually make sure that, if you're about to land in Auckland at 9 a.m. in the morning, you've slept as much as you could during the flight, so you're ready to go for a day. And if you're about to land in Auckland at 9 p.m. at night, make sure that you try to stay awake during your flight. So watch as much movies as you can. Try to stay awake during your flight, so when you arrive, you're ready to hit the bed. If you don't, you will have a very hard time to readjust because you're going to kind of miss a night. And so that's going to be much harder in that way. So make sure to do that, because that will actually, to me, that's the biggest like life changer on doing that. When I actually started applying this tip, I never had jet lag ever again.
All right. Another thing is when you're on your flight or waiting in any of the airports, try to avoid drinking coffee. Obviously, coffee has caffeine in it, and it does send your sort of sleep pattern and waking pattern all out of whack. Even if you're trying to drink coffee to stay awake for, the immediate time straight after you've drunk it, it actually can affect you much later on in the day. So it's just best to avoid those sort of drinks. And do we have alcohol on there as well?
Yeah, alcohol is...
so alcohol as well. I know it's really tempting when they're giving away the free wine and free beer on the plane to just, go crazy. But it seriously dehydrates you as well when you're on your flight, and already you are in a cabin which has got the air conditioning going and you can already feel pretty dehydrated. It's a pretty bad thing to then combine that with alcohol, which will make you more dehydrated and feel really groggy. If you do fall asleep, you wake up, you usually find it hard to stay awake afterwards. It's just best to just stick to water.
Yeah. And finally, I'm going to go for one last one. It's just to turn off your phone at night, because you're going to be on the other side of the world. Every single round of your friend and family, we're going to start messaging you and say, hey, did you make it all right? Is everything, are you having fun, blah, blah. But that's going to be in the middle of the night for you. You're never going to be able to sleep. So make sure to turn off your phone so you actually have a nice night of sleep.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Reggie, you're telling us that you're going to be arriving in Auckland. You're going to spend 2 days in Auckland, and then you're going to go down to Queenstown. So that's a great way to do it. And to be fair, you don't need that long to explore Auckland. It doesn't really represent what New Zealand is all about. There's a few good things to do in Auckland, don't get me wrong. But, once you've done a couple of stuff in Auckland, and keep active, we advise you to maybe head to Rangitoto Island, which is really nice, and then take the kids up the Sky Tower, and they're going to really love it. Once you've done that, then you take your flight to Queenstown, and then you have a blast. Now, Queenstown has a lot to offer. Some people spend literally 2 weeks in Queenstown, but we think that, about a week in Queenstown is good enough. And then you want to head on the road and start exploring more areas to do, more things to do around New Zealand and around the South Island. But we made a bit of a selection of things which are going to be awesome to do with kids. And so Laura's going to get started.
All right. Okay, number 1 on the list is jet boating. So Queenstown is known as the adventure capital of New Zealand, and one of their huge adventure activities to do there is jet boating, it's far different to speed boats or any boats that just use, your normal propeller motors. This actually takes up water and shoots it out the bottom of the jet boat. So it sort of skims along the surface of the water, which can create some really crazy rides. So the jet boats do 360-degree spins on the water. It does near misses to usually narrow canyon walls. It's a really good thing, and it's a good thing to do with kids, basically because you're just sat there with a life jacket and you just enjoy the ride. It's like going to an extreme theme park. So yeah, that's definitely one really awesome thing to do with kids.
Yeah. So another really awesome thing to do with kids is to go to the underwater observatory. You're going to be able to see what's happening under, below the waterline in the New Zealand rivers and lakes. It's really awesome. There is plenty of fish to see. The kids absolutely love that. I don't really.
And you're forgetting about the diving ducks.
Oh, come on.
When you see these ducks diving in the water, it's pretty crazy to see.
But yeah, no, that's really awesome. The kids really love that usually.
Yeah. Another must-do for any family traveling to Queenstown is the Luge. And this is basically downhill go-karting, which can be found at the top of the Skyline gondola. And there's a few different tracks, and you sort of just use a go-kart, which all is powered by gravity. You just go there and control the speed of the go-kart for the whole time. Usually it gets pretty competitive between some people, but with kids, if you do have younger kids, you can have them on your lap. And
I think the 5 years old is going to have to be on your lap, but the 10 years old, I think, is going to be able to go on its own.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's definitely a really, really fun afternoon in Queenstown.
Yeah. Instead of us calling them the 5 years old and 10 years old, do you want to give them give us their name, by the way, Reggie, while you're here? All right, moving on, you can head to Arrowtown. So it's only a short drive from Queenstown. I think it's about 30, depending on your traffic, it's going to be 30 to 45 minutes. And it's a really cool place. So first, it's a nice little town, which, is very kind of charming and everything like that. But On top of that, it has a river which used to yield quite a big amount of gold. So you can get some gold panning tool and you can go by the river and pan for your own gold. You won't be rich, you won't get rich out of doing that, that's for sure, but it's really fun and kids really love to do that. And if you get a speck of two, well, it's a really awesome souvenirs to bring back. So yeah, just got the name. So Livia and Julia will have a blast doing that.
Yeah, and if Livia and Julia are adventurous little kids, then you can go whitewater rafting with them, which does sound quite extreme to start with, but there are some child-friendly whitewater rafting trips that you can do in Queenstown. There's not usually some major rapids. They're usually very sort of small rapids. You're in a big sturdy rafting boat, and yeah, there's usually a lot of fun activities that the guides give you along the way, like jumping in the water and yeah, all sorts of really fun things to do. So that could be an option as well.
Yeah. And finally, you want to head to Milford Sound. Now, we suggest taking a bus tour to go down from Queenstown all the way to Milford Sound, and it's a whole day tour. It's really awesome. It will show you some of the most beautiful places to see in the whole country. But yeah, it's more of like a scenic kind of journey, but there's a lot of stops along the way which are quite fun. And you're really going to want to see that. So, you know, the kids are gonna have to follow. You've got to see Milford Sound. Yeah. So yeah, so that would make it for quite a really full week in Queenstown, but that should be enough to make the most of this awesome place in the country. Now, if you guys find that useful, make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps us out a lot. And we'll put a few links for you guys in the description below just to help you out planning even more of your trips with kids in New Zealand. All right, let's go back to the live chat. Okay, so Jivan Deep still wants the weather in September, so we're going to need to do that. Makeup by Monishas says, you guys are doing an amazing job. Love from India. Oh, love from New Zealand. Look at that. Jivan Deep says, if we don't take any car or rent any camper van or rent a car, what is the best option to travel between cities? Train or bus?
Network in New Zealand is really good and really extensive, whereas the train network is very slim, meaning that basically there's very limited places that you can get to by train. So definitely bus is the main way of traveling around New Zealand. Yeah.
Makeup by Monisha says, me and my husband are visiting New Zealand for 10 years anniversary in November. Whoa, congratulations. Woo! Flight to Auckland from India is the cheapest. Should we do North or South Island? Trying to do a 20 to 30 day trip.
That's a good amount of time.
Honestly, with that amount of time, you can do both. You can definitely do both. If you land in Auckland, just rent yourself a car or camper van and start making your way around both islands. You can definitely do that.
Yeah.
And actually, on the channel right here, we do have itinerary for New Zealand. We have a honeymoon one, which, you know, we actually talk about all the most romantic kind of places in the country, so that's going to be quite cool. You can watch that, and so you can add those one to itineraries. But we also have a 1 month itinerary around New Zealand, so that's going to really help you kind of see all the places you can go to. So something to find that, you use the search bar of our channel. So if you go on our channel, there is a big picture that says New Zealand's biggest gap here, and then there is like videos, home, playlist, all those kind of things, and then there is a little search symbol. You click on there, and then you type 1 month, or you type 4 weeks, and or you type itineraries, and you'll be able to find this one very easily. And yeah, that's going to help you out. But yeah, definitely 20 to 30 days. I would do both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Reggie Matthew says we're very informative, so yeah, thank you very much. Makeup by Monisha says you're on a budget. Don't worry, that's what the channel is all about. Yep. You'll be able to do that on the budget.
And something in the Korean language. I can't believe I'm watching live. Yay! Woo! Thanks for joining us.
We'd love to pronounce your name Korean language, but we don't know how to. Can you give us a spelling in the English alphabets that we can spell?
Yeah, maybe an English pronunciation.
Yeah. Just help us make a fool of ourselves. But yeah, well, welcome live. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So we do have some more questions to go through, and actually, Jivandip, you were asking about the weather in September, and so was Jonas right here. So what about I read that, and so everybody
sound pretty noisy.
I think something's wrong with the microphone. Can you guys hear her correct? Is everybody hearing her well? Or? Hello. Okay. Tell us if you can hear us well, please, before we go to the next question, which is going to be the weather in September. So we're going to have to get the map again, because we love the map.
Oh, the map's over there.
Yeah, I know. I took it away from you. Can you guys hear us well? Can someone say if the sound is working well?
Mike is noisy. No slight background noise.
Okay. I'm going to turn it off. Turn it on again. Now, can you hear us well? Okay, what about now? Can you guys hear us now? Okay, hopefully that's going to work better.
Still
not working. God damn it. I'm going to unplug it and replug it. Is it working if I do that?
Staticky, they're saying.
Staticky. All right. What about now?
Does that improve, guys?
Still noisy. All right. I'm going to go in the setting. I'm going to change the microphone.
Yeah.
Can I do that? Do I know how to do that? I probably don't know how to do that. Oh. Well, the joy of being live.
Yeah.
It's always turn it on and off. No, that doesn't work.
We have to just make a disclaimer that this doesn't usually happen. So if you are joining us on our live video for the first time, it's not like this every week, we swear. Sometimes YouTube cuts us on and off, but yeah, that's just live on YouTube, I guess.
Yeah, YouTube has been a bit of a pain.
Yeah.
Okay, well, listen. What is that one doing? Okay, hello.
Keep us up to date, guys, if you see if it's still quite hard to hear us, or if it's improving, just keep us in the loop and let us know.
Yeah.
So that we can move on with the next question. Randeep has been in suspense, wanting to know what the weather's going to be like in September. Now, we don't want to leave him for any longer, wondering what his trip's going to be like.
Yeah. All right. Someone says Reggie says it's better. Okay, well, we're going to stay.
Well, let's go with that.
We're just going to go with better, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that, guys, but
Same. We can hear you.
oh, it's okay. Someone says they can hear me. Michael says they can hear us. Okay, we'll go with you can hear us, and we'll. The audio is messed up. God damn it. Okay, what about I do this and that?
Did you change the audio?
Yes, I did.
The other day?
Okay, what about now?
Totally the same as before.
Totally the same. Fantastic. Nothing is working. Well, listen, that is live on YouTube for you guys. I'm very sorry about that. Should we just should we kind of okay? What about that? Can you hear us better now? Or not?
It will be still connected to the mic, so you might need to change.
Then maybe on this one over there.
Okay.
So yeah. Can you hear us? No. Can't hear us anymore.
Just the original settings were connected to the Yeti mic.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. No, I don't think so. That's what I mean. I think it's on the camera. Oh God. Okay.
We could always restart it and just use it through the camera.
No, we can't do that on this nonsense. YouTube. Well, mute. Yeah, okay. All right, guys. We're basically going to have to stop this session and restart the live session if that's cool with you. So just go back on our channel and just join us back. We'll be live back in about 20 seconds. Basically just restart another live session and hopefully that's going to fix the problem. So see you in about 20 seconds. Bye-bye.
Bye.